Attention, citizens. It's time for Super Pulp Science.
This is Super Pulp Science, where we talk about how genre gets made. I'm here with my long-suffering co-host, Justin Curry, known the world over as Chasing Artwork. I'm Gregory Kmichuk, known in some Google boxes as GMB Kmichuk. I would like to inform our dear listeners that we've got most of our super controversial conversation out of the way, off the record, and Justin and I are going to plow forward with only positivity and good thoughts related to art and writing moving forward in our futures. Isn't that right, Justin?
Shouldn't we be talking, isn't controversy, doesn't that make good podcast? Shouldn't we save all that juicy, opinionated stuff for the airwaves?
I don't know. I think there's enough of it. Everyone's angry about everything, and rightly so in many cases. And I just don't want to. There's not enough people just reminding people that if they are being kind, if they are being useful, and if they're doing their best, that's okay for right now. That's enough. Be kind, be useful, do your best.
Do your best.
Right? Just do your best. And your time will come, right? The time to shine will come. Yeah. And that's one of the things that you and I have been texting about a little bit this week, is the idea that there is a right time for certain pieces of art, a right time for certain stories, a right time for when to release something. You know, you and I have a back catalog that's kind of building up now as we're not able to take it out to shows. And wondering how and when the right time for the right thing is, I think, is a favorite pastime of most creative people. And I'm here to weigh in with my opinion that it's never up to you. You never know when that right time is. So just keep making it, keep putting it out there.
See, I was thinking not as much the right time, but the right arena. Specifically, I was thinking about all the different places that I've tried to promote and sell my artwork. This week, for example, I was part of TCAF, which was just an online convention for this year because of what's going on.
For the dear listener, the Toronto Comics Arts Festival.
Yes, which is an amazing book festival that would happen in Toronto. It would happen in a big bookstore downtown Toronto, and it was free to get into. So it would see crazy awesome attendance because it was free to enter. There was no entry fee. And then it was really hard to get into as an artist or publisher. So you needed to have a published book happen that year, and it was still juried. And so I think it took me 4 or 5 tries to get in. So it's kind of a big deal to be there. But this year I'm going to throw a little bit of shade TCAF's way. They had the most, and again,
they were doing their best, Justin.
Tough to be in this. They were doing their best, but I've never had so much trouble uploading my artwork to a online shop setup. Whatever program or whatever service they were using crashed so many times that I not only stopped and restarted 3 times, I just got too frustrated and gave up. And keep in mind, I have more than 10 years experience of uploading my artwork to the internet. And I could not deal with uploading 5 products to whatever little store front thing they had built in. And then finally, on the 3rd attempt, I finally emailed somebody and they replied, "Oh yeah, that's down. Just email us everything. We'll put it in."
So
they were trying hard. But
I happen to know that a few people that are at least TCAF adjacent in the organizers listen to our podcast fairly regularly. So I think it's fair to vent your frustration. What is a actionable criticism? What is an action that could be taken if this carries on for a whole another year? What's a piece of advice you would give? Because like you say, you've got a lot of experience with other formats like this. Is there one that you just think works great that you could point them at?
Well, I'm of the controversial opinion that online conventions don't work. Right. I've signed up for a couple of them, and they certainly haven't worked for me. All my close friends that have tried it have not had great experiences as well. Like when I sign up for an online convention, you put your products up on their storefront, and then people are supposed to go and buy through that portal, right?
Right.
But people don't seem to be going there and getting it. So then it's up to me to promote that event. Like, go here and check out all the art. But why am I?
You already have your own website that does all that.
I have my own website. I have my own store. So why am I giving them money first to like host me as an artist, and then putting in more effort to promote that event and get people to go there, only to be linked right back to my online store, right, and do it that way? It just seems, because I have my own store, because I have my own website, why am I even bothering with online conventions? As far as I can tell, I've gotten no real benefit out of any of it. And like, I feel like conventions are in a really hard spot. Like if you run a convention, like, Dan with FanQuest, like it's not a fun time to be running an event that its whole goal is to get a bunch of people together in one place, So I don't have an answer.
Yeah.
But from my perspective, it's very frustrating that I've tried so many and gotten nothing out of them.
And it's interesting. There's a perspective that I see. The ones that I have participated in that have worked the best as far as driving people that seem to move actually the needle on say book sales, are the ones that don't lead with any kind of shop. They're just creating programming. Like, here's an interview of creators. Here's a bunch of people sharing their know-how. And then people who are watching and listening are actually connecting in a way that, while not the same as a regular convention where you can be face to face with a person and really feel what it is they're trying to project, it at least feels like you are engaged with the active, participatory feeling of creators talking about their work, rather than just yet another website with a buy option. And right, it's true.
Yeah. So
any of those online spaces where it's just another place to have a shopping cart digitally isn't really, that's not why people go to conventions. I mean, yes, you can sell a lot of stuff there, but it's a byproduct of that connection to the creators that is creating those sales, not the sales themselves. Right.
Mm-hmm. And I've been part of two in the past little while, and I think you've been part of quite a few as well. Those like kind of panel discussions, or there's 5 or more people in a Zoom call, and then the people can watch and ask questions, and those are fun. I really like those, and I think those are much better than let's set up some kind of virtual marketplace and plop a bunch of artist websites on there and then try to drive people towards that just for a weekend, and then that system doesn't seem to be working for me. I much prefer, putting together some great workshops, some great panel discussions, getting some Q&As in there. Like that seems to be, seems to get some momentum rather than just another online store. And I'm not trying to throw shade or be mean to these conventions that are trying that. I don't have a solution. I don't know what else they could be doing. They're hurting these days. So
if at first you don't succeed, scenario 2, right? Like they're trying it. We've got a year where everyone's tried it at least once. And I think each of those organizations has figured out, no, it doesn't work. One of our local shows, our anime show that we have here, Icon, didn't. They were going to do another one, and then realized that not really, it's not really working. It doesn't create the community experience that they hoped to create with it. And so they decided not to do it. And they just said, we're putting all our efforts into the best show we can make when we can have a show in person.
You could go nuts out here just waiting for something to happen.
As far as community building goes, there's a couple of interesting things been going on. I've been hosting regularly now. Gosh, it might be coming up on 13 months. I've been doing that 13 Horrors. For the dear listener who doesn't know what I'm talking about, 13 Horrors is when on the 13th of every month, an hour before midnight, Winnipeg time, I put a call out to filmmakers and writers and comic book people and we get together and we brainstorm, we story break a horror story, and we race midnight. We try to finish the treatment of the story before the bell tolls 12. And that has been something that usually I did locally, the years before the event, as we call it here on our podcast now. I would get together at a restaurant. I'd text a few people who were around and I'd say, meet me late at night at this undisclosed location. Until the last moment, I'll let you know. Come and meet me and we'll tell a scary story together. We take notes, and that's that. Doing it online has meant that people from different cities have joined in. We record the conversation so everyone can have like a complete set of notes from what we're doing. That part of community building, I feel, is something that conventions could easily host programming like that. Right. Where a dozen creators get into a room and they record those people just being creative, and then let the people, like, that's what people come to shows for, right? Is to get close to a thing that they don't yet know how to do. And so much of comics, as Howard Chaykin would say, is aspirational. So many people are interested in comics, wish they were making their own comics, and like the comics they imagine they themselves would make. And that's why the show floor is so exciting, because you see people with a pen, just on a piece of paper, make a whole world in front of you. And it just, like, the fire inside you just gets stoked. I mean, I already make things for a living, and I walk around the show floor and I feel like that. I can't imagine if you were just starting out or just creatively curious, that how that must feel, right? And that's all absent in a click-through website. But I don't think it needs to be. And I don't know what the real answer is, except that you need people to be willing to share a little of themselves, a little bit more. But then, and then I pivot the other way. Not everyone would want those fits and starts recorded. One of the reasons why conventions work so great is because it's over. It was in person and now it's over. Yeah. And so if you missed it, then you missed it, and you missed it forever. So it makes it special.
Yeah. How many book ideas and projects have been started at that after convention meal and drinks, where it's a bunch of artists from different cities get together, have a meal after a long day, and just start riffing on some things. And then, hey, we should do that. So many projects have come from that.
So many things. Yeah. And so, trying to arrange social events like that through Zoom or through whatever digital platform of your choice is tricky, but I think ultimately worthwhile. Now that I'm in the habit of gathering with certain groups on a semi-regular basis, it doesn't quite fill the gap of a in-person social event, but it's like methadone, right? It's not the full hit, but at least it keeps you going.
Yeah.
Right? That's how I feel about it. Now, I shouldn't make light of drug use, because I'm definitely not a drug user, and I know people struggle with that, but it's hard, right? We're social animals and we need it. How do you think our call went? We did a Mythos and Inc. Hosted a gathering of creatives as a way of launching a book. And it was interesting because it didn't feel like a commercial. And all of us came on and we were just talking about the creative process of making our books. And it was like, oh, by the way, these books are available soon. But that wasn't really what we were all doing. I really appreciated that aspect of it. How did you feel about that?
Yeah, it was... I didn't really. Yeah, I thought it went well. I thought it was a lot of fun. It was there was 8 of us on the call, 6 of us.
Yeah, 8 I think in total. Yeah, including
8. Yeah. So my problem was on my end. My internet was being a little slow, and so all the video stopped, and so I could hear everybody perfectly, but I couldn't see anybody. So I had no visual cues of when people were about to start talking or when they were done talking. So it was like being on a phone call with 8 people at the same time. So I felt like it was hard to kind of jump in and out of the conversation. So technically, I had a bit of a misstep that night. But
interesting. See,
it was great listening to everybody.
I was talking to some of the people on that call afterwards as a follow-up, and I was saying that one of the things I went into was this like no mind. It had been a while since I'd really dug into talking about Rust and Water. And a mnemonic device I use sometimes when you're put on the spot. So if you're in a creative field at all and you're asked to speak publicly about things at all, and eventually you're going to get sideswiped with, come and talk about this thing in a intelligent, careful, protracted way with no preparation, right? That's what is expected of you for media sound bites. And some days I'm good at it and some days I'm bad at it. So the days I'm good at it, I try to put a mental pin in it. And I found myself reliving a moment where you and I were at a school visit talking about Rust and Water and what were our creative process, what was our inspiration. And I found myself almost like downloading that memory and replaying those answers to questions that are, you often get the same kinds of questions. And what's interesting about this, now that it's all coming together for me, you and I have answered those questions so many times. I'm used to the pattern of you jumping in and filling in things when I would pause, and you weren't doing that. And now, I kept saying, why don't you tell the story of so-and-so? Like, I felt like I was prompting you in a way that I normally don't. I was like, why don't you tell that story, Justin? And you jump in and fill in all the blanks. But that visual cue, now I realize, was the reason. My head always leans back when I'm pontificating, like I'm gonna cue someone else in to talk, right? Without my giant Adam's apple waving at you, you didn't know that I was about to. Right? Makes sense.
And I was scared about like leaving the session and trying to get back in, because not only were we recording, we were also live streaming and people were asking questions. So I was worried that if I tried to, close my browser and come back in, that I wouldn't be allowed back in, or it would like screw everybody up. So I did my best, but it was kind of cool too. It was just listening to like everybody else. It's like being, I don't know, it's just like another podcast you get to listen to before anybody else, and every once in a while chip into. So
yeah, it was a little embarrassing, the number of those creatives that pointed at us as being like, supportive or foundational. I don't think of us as really, it sounds awful, but I don't think of myself as being that encouraging to other creative people.
No, I think you're pretty encouraging. I think what we did is we just kind of luckily started this right around when the world kind of really started to ramp up on creator-owned graphic novels and indie comics and comic conventions. Like, I think we were just kind of waiting and ready when that all started. And so we were just kind of part of that first wave.
Yeah, I guess.
And I think
we would host, for the dear listeners' sake, we would host a lot of making comics workshops at the studio and things like that. And we would always begin, often even when we promoted it, not with, hey, we know all the answers, but hey, we screwed up a whole bunch of times. Do you want to come hear about it? That's kind of like the tack we would take. It's like, here's all the things that we didn't do because we didn't know to do it properly. That's what we'll share with you. Not like the perfect roadmap, but instead all the potholes that we lost tires in along the way.
Yeah.
And I guess I didn't realize at the time, that was as useful as I hoped it would be. So that was a nice surprise to hear those nice things from people. But, that whole team, like Stephen Call and Lyndon Rachenka and Zach Schuster, they don't need anybody's help making stuff. They are quite capable of making whole worlds all on their lonesome. So it was nice to feel part of that.
General wants someone with your experience. I don't know whether to feel flattered or not. What exactly will I be looking for? A floating space monster?
It was kind of bizarre because Dragon Nanny was 2016, so like 5 years ago. And the podcast was kind of oriented around that publication. But
Rust and Water.
Yeah, what did I say?
Dragon Nanny, which is on your mind because that's our newest book.
Sorry. Rust and Water. Yeah. 5 years ago, 2016, Rust and Water came out. And we, it's been on my table and I've had it around, but I haven't been interviewed or talked about it in so long. So it was kind of like, the Wayback Machine. If somebody's, it was just a different time in my life. I was a different artist. And now suddenly having to talk about and think about like all the things that were going on with that project. You're just so used to talking about what's new and what's next. it's not that often that people want to know about that project from 4 or 5 years ago.
So I get all my experience with that kind of stuff vicariously through other much more prolific, intelligent, and talented authors that I have the joy of having been associated with once in a while at literary events. Because like an author comes to a literary event and they often have a long backlist. And so if I'm signing beside them with my pretty short backlist, everything is sort of in my recent memory. Everything is like within reach, within the last, really in the last decade, which creatively is not that far of a stretch. But, things near the end of that or the beginning of that decade feel faint, and it's hard to like remember exactly my space when I was working on that. But I've sat beside authors that, have 40-year careers, and someone brings their first novel and is asking them really specific, careful questions about like a moment in a chapter in a book that they wrote 40 years ago. And they're answering
it. But for that reader, it's fresh for them. They just read it. They were right in that world. And
it's incredible to me. And they, obviously if someone has a 40-year career as an author and has done that signings, they have some experience answering those questions, I'm sure. But I am always like, wow, I cannot believe you had such vivid recall of that project from so long ago. And the answer I get from a lot when I ask, when I'm like, wow, when I feel excited by it, and so I ask. One author once said to me, Anna Gire actually said to me, the stuff that excites author or readers is often the stuff that excited the author about writing it. And that's why it's easy to remember.
Right.
No one asks you a question like, why did you make the drapes blue on this page of this chapter? They're asking you about like the real meat and potatoes of the story. And so I guess only time will tell, Justin, if you or I are any good at this 30 years from now.
I'm just thinking of all the time somebody's come up to my booth and asked like about a specific piece. They describe something, a painting that they're pretty sure is mine, but they're not sure. And I'm kind of like struggling along with them, trying to remember. And I'm not sure if I've done a painting like that either. And, and then, oh my God, I did do that like 6 years ago. I totally forgot about that piece.
Well, and for you, that's, 6 years, that could be as many as like, it might not be outside of saying like 600 or 700 paintings ago, right?
I think I do around 40 pieces a year.
Okay, so I was thinking around 100 for you. Okay, so 40.
Yeah, well, think like 52 weeks in a year. I would say like every week and a half, 2 weeks, I've got a new piece. And then books, like that's quite a bit of artwork. But like individual paintings, I think about a week and a half, 2 weeks is when I'm pumping something new out.
Okay, so I'm going to ask a question that I think requires for the listeners some context. I, of course, have been working alongside Justin for a long time, so I've seen his process, and I know that when we're traveling, the piece that you want to be working on, you write down, you draw, you sketch in your sketchbook. You and I both do this. We figure out compositions in little thumbnail illustrations. And then after a few trips on a few different airplanes, you settle in on the composition, and then you're held back because you're traveling or working. You get all like fired up to work on it, and you get home and you just don't want to do anything but work on that piece. I've seen that. I've been that. I live that too.
Yeah.
How has that changed for you recently? And what is the drive now for you?
I still have that going on right now. Instead of traveling, it's become commission work. I've got like 3 commissions on the go right now, and I'm really excited to get them done because then I get to jump over to my own work. So I still have those like exterior hurdles to get over before I get to do my own thing. And I think me personally, I need that. If I have nothing but my own projects and own time, then I tend to just spin my tires, not get anything done. I take on freelance because I know it helps me get excited and get more motivated to do my own work. And this is just through trial and error. Like I've had periods in my career where I stopped taking on work and just wanted to work on my own thing and see where that could go. And that's usually when I get lazier and complacent and not as productive. But if I've got a lot of, irons in the fire, doing different things, taking on little jobs here and there. Right now I'm teaching a class every week. I've got commissions for design, for a logo, for a beer label, for, like some other stuff that I'd never draw on my own. And juggling in all that, I have my own stuff. And my own stuff is really exciting because I can't just work on it. I have all these other things.
Okay,
and I need those other things.
You still have this like throttle that's holding you back from it. I've been feeling that too in a very different way. So here's my experience. I've been working on some film stuff and working on a bunch of book stuff, that is, I say it as if it's like no big deal. They're big deals to me. I love all those projects, but they're kind of normal. They're like part of my regular schedule. I knew they were coming. I'm working on them anyway. After the event occurred, the travel portion I replaced with visiting. I visit a different school every morning remotely, and I run a classroom story with them, right? So I bring them prompts, they write stories, I give them another prompt, the story, it unfolds that way. But because of the age group, Justin, of these kids, when I will give a story idea, two things form in my head. Here's one that's age appropriate for you. And here's one if it was an adult story, like, oh, that monster would be so much more savage, or, oh, this sad point would be so much sadder, right? Like I feel myself doing that. What is school appropriate versus what, if there were no rules at all, would I make? And that's created a backstop of really wanting to make some pretty out there, pretty scary, really horrific stuff. And that's not a feeling I'm used to, is like working on a bunch of kids stuff and then generating all these scary ideas on the side, which is, I would never have been able to plan for that kind of stuff. And I'm not sure if there's a psychologist out there that wants to DM me and let me know what's wrong with me and why this is happening. But that's what's been happening, is that usually we'd switch. We'd do a kids project, then we do an adult project, then we, but doing all this stuff concurrently and having none of it be released has meant that there's, only so many gates that you can fit the stories through. It'd be interesting to see what happens next.
You can do one of two things: outrun them or fight them.
I am a hair's breadth, just a hair, like 3 pages away from finishing a big project for Heavy Metal magazine right now, which is our graphic novel, The Eye Collector, which is, I guess, officially announced by us, and they'll make an official announcements on their site soon. And that one's pretty scary and pretty weird and pretty dark. But it's about, I feel like at the beginning of the pandemic, the event, I felt like it was about as scary as I was willing to go in a graphic novel project.
Right.
Now I feel like it's maybe a 5 on what I'm capable of.
Because you worked on a bunch of kids' stories. The true horror writer has
smooth out. Yeah, I had to take out everything scary. And every time a scary idea would occur to me, I'd be like, well, grade 4s, they don't need to live with an idea like that. Let's make it a little bit, point it more at the curriculum, make it a little more inclusive, make it a little better for everyone to share together. Like you focus on your audience, right? And what the audience needs is more important than what the storyteller wants to say when you're in front of an audience. And so, but it's sort of putting a little weight on the scale of like, every time I hold back, every time I edit myself, every time I'm like, probably shouldn't say that. It's like built a reservoir, like a little drip in a reservoir of some really, really horrible, scary stories. So I'm excited to have the summer to work on those. I've set a goal for myself and with some collaborators. We write these short stories called the Once Lands, and they're a little bit Conan and a little bit H.P. Lovecraft kind of mixed together, just for the dear listeners' sake. So they're pretty violent and they're pretty scary. And we all work on our own little short stories and then we put them in these collections. I have a feeling that I have a pretty horrific Once Land's Tale that is going to come out of me this summer as a result of all the inhibitors that have gone on to working with kids for, the last 7 months.
It's almost like, sometimes, and that's like me with the commissions, like sometimes you need those restrictions to hold you back from just being free to do whatever. That gets you the best work. I've been listening to a good audiobook, and it was talking about a writer who had like horrible writer's block, and then he got it's a sci-fi one, so he got kind of kidnapped and had to work in like a slave camp for a while. And because he was doing menial work every day, all day, he was coming up with the best stories of his life, whereas before he was just lounging around coming up with stories here and there. Because he had to do menial work for, he thought, the rest of his days, his imagination worked overtime because it was his only escape.
Trying to help him escape. Yeah. Stephen King has a quote about that, about remembering that life is supposed to support art and not the other way around, because it's supposed to remind us that there's no such thing as a menial task. Cleaning your house is important, right? Going out, taking the garbage out is important. Teaching your kid to read, cleaning up dog poop, whatever it is you got in your life that you don't like, that stuff is important because it makes your life work. And if your life is working, you have some time to make art. So I'm down with that. I've been working a lot more with my hands around the house and doing that kind of stuff, as so many others have since the event. And it's actually, I think, has been good for my creative side, for sure.
I find on days where I have nothing on my schedule other than to sit and draw, it's a little bit hard to get into the groove. But if I have a morning where I have to run a couple errands or do a couple tasks and like walk the dog, and I can't just get right into drawing, then by the time I can get into it, I'm way more motivated to kind of stick with it. But if I have nothing else around my day other than make a new painting, that's a struggle, oddly enough,
Yeah, because time is
stupid brains.
Time is a commodity. And if it feels like it's been pulled away from you, then its value increases because now it's rarer. And so you're going to spend it the way you really want to be spending it. You don't piss away that time. I think it's an important step. Before
we started recording, we were talking about how it's kind of exciting with this backlog of artwork. Different arenas and different crowds of people are like dig different pieces of artwork. And it's hard to know what's going to do well where until you just kind of get out there and do that. And so the specific arenas that I had in my mind were comic conventions, and then we also do kind of craft sales or more like artisanal markets, like kind of stuff like that. And then like book touring, bookstores and school tours and stuff like that. And those three different arenas like vastly different kinds of artwork. And some pieces will sell really well at Comic-Cons and won't sell at all when we go to a craft sale, and vice versa. But it's I have all these pieces that I think will do well here, but maybe not there.
It's funny you say that.
It's so hard to tell. And the other thing that we've noticed.
It's funny you say that because a whole bunch of pieces I've been working on, I've realized fit. Okay, I'll back up a bit. When we go to certain shows, you start to realize where the lack is, what people are interested in, what you're missing that would make that work really well. Now I'm working on stuff in absence of those shows, and I realize, ooh, this would work there. Oh, this would work at a show like that. Oh, this would go. I feel so much better with the catalog of work I have that I could spread across all those arenas than I did when we were actually going to all those arenas.
Were you focusing more on one, like just you were a little more focused, and now you were focused on selling and now you're more focused on the artwork? Do you think that's it? Or
I think it's perspective. It's like I've made more work without any without any sales channel in mind. And now I look back and
Right.
I often do and say, what is the place that this will work best? You know, we try lots of stuff and we will continue to try lots of stuff moving forward. Lots of ways and lots of avenues to bring our work to the people. But now I feel like any of those places I go, I know I could go into the catalog of work and say, okay, I'm bringing these 25 pieces and these 5 books, and I'm ready for this arena. Whether or not it'll prove to be true, well, that'll remain to be seen. But I feel a lot more stacked with goods, if you will.
Just confirmed it. A rocket similar to yours is heading in our direction.
I hope it won't crash.
Don't worry. I have the best men on gravitation control.
The other big element here is seeing artwork in person versus seeing it on a screen is such a huge difference. And I don't think many artists realize that, you know, when they post stuff online and it gets a big reaction and then they print it out and bring it to a show and nobody looks twice at it.
Yeah.
That happens just as often as nobody looks on it online and they can't keep it at their table at a Comic-Con.
Absolutely.
There is no correlation to online popularity to sales. It's super weird.
Yeah, zero, because I, you know, and I can speak to that. Pieces that I'll post online, they don't light a fire under the algorithms or the people sharing them or the people liking them, but then I take them to the show floor and, you know, make a living off of those same pieces. So it's very different depending on and I'd be curious. I'm sure somewhere, somehow, some internet guru, some programmer could figure out algorithmically why that's true. But I don't know why it's true, but it's 100% true.
Is it maybe that we don't mock up enough artwork on walls? Like, you know, a lot of artists will take a photograph of a nice room and mock up what that piece would look like hanging on the wall. Should that become more of a standard practice?
I wonder. I mean, I see it enough. It must work. Otherwise, people wouldn't keep doing it. But I've started to recognize the same stock photos that people are using as that photo of the thing on the wall, and then it just feels disingenuous to me. But I'm sure the average consumer doesn't notice the difference. Right? It's like I wonder if it's similar to the effect of it came with the frame, right?
Right.
Empty frames sell less than frames that have pictures of strangers in them. And people, they figured that out a long time ago, and that's why pictures of strangers are in all those new photo frames. Which
just
is
seeing it
bizarre. Seeing it for what it's designed to do, right? Seeing its real use.
And it's so much easier to imagine that when they see the piece of artwork on the table versus through the screen. They can imagine where they're going to hang it or how, like, they can see how it looks in person. That's the other thing. Like, you print the actual print quality and like is it matte finish? Is it glossy? Like, is it like canvas? Like, they don't really, it's really hard to know what you're going to get when it's actually printed and shipped to you, you know?
Totally. Well, in real life is full resolution.
Yeah. Books too, like it makes me, there's like a hole in my heart, the fact that I haven't been able to watch anybody flip through Dragon Nanny in person.
I was thinking that dude, I was thinking that too. Watching a person's face light up as they discover something flipping randomly through the book. Man, that's the greatest feeling. And even if they hate it, sometimes it's the opposite, like that look of disgust, like, oh, this is not for me. I still love that. Like, it made you feel something, right?
Right.
That's so incredible. Right? You see it in person? Man.
Yeah, there's something to our equation that's missing now. We're just making artwork and we don't get that interaction with a customer, with a viewer anymore. And it's so filtered through screens and the internet. It's not the same. So I find myself like just, you know, kind of reliving moments at conventions when people can like actually react in person to my artwork, and how much I miss that. It's really part of it.
There's the age-old saying that the viewer completes the artwork.
Yeah, finishes the artwork. Yeah, totally.
Right. And so much of our experience at shows is literally watching that completed circuit in front of us. And I mean, it speaks to our egos, right? Like, you love it. There's no way to deny if you see a positive reaction of your work in somebody else, it makes you feel good and it makes you feel proud and, you know, whatever. So yes, am I a little selfish in that I want to see that? Truly, I guess I am. But there's, you know, there's that old, what is it? Ubuntu, right? The human in me sees the human in you, and that is how we interact. That's also what it's at play there, right? I've put a lot of my private time and energy into making that thing, and to watch it spill out and connect with somebody means that the time was not wasted, that the time was not, lost, that it validates the entire experience of making a thing when you see it connect with somebody. And it only takes one. Like, if 1 in 1,000 people it connects to, I'm good. I'm ready.
The the opposite too, when you put your heart and soul into something and nobody reacts to it, nobody likes it, that kind of lights a fire under my butt too, to like, okay, I missed the mark with this. I'm going to try again. Like, I'm going to make another piece that's like along the same vein, but different. I'm going to fix my mistake.
Yeah.
And I'm not getting that either. I don't know if, this piece is a mistake or not, because I can't see if it flops or does well.
And to the dear listener too, what's important to realize is that when we're talking about this, there are certain things that you can tell from a person's response, because color is emotion in the psychology of a human being, right? So when people are responding to certain combinations of colors and certain compositions that work, because it's almost like the scientific method. You know how your art evokes certain elements, and when it misses, I need a little bit more color saturation. I need to, like in my experience, I have to bring up the contrast, make the blacks a little deeper, make the central color pop a little bit brighter. Like, those are the things I see in people's faces as their eyes scan over the piece, right? I actually get an education about how to be a better artist when I see that moment occur. And I can say through experimentation that I know it to be true, because when I make those changes, and I do 30 shows a year and I sell hundreds of pieces of artwork, when I make those changes according to how people respond, it's a science as much as it's an art, if you know your own process. Oh man, now I'm all fired up. I just want a show. Can we just have a show? Oh my gosh.
Or a gallery event too. We've got this great downtown Winnipeg space that's great for galleries. And I recently the Pokemon piece that I just finished, I printed it as big of a canvas that I've ever printed before, 24 by 48. So it's
oh man,
it's massive. It's like almost like a small door, but. And it's the coolest thing to like put on display somewhere, but I can't do that yet. I can only take pictures and put them online, and that doesn't convey how cool, that tactile feeling. So
I haven't, I personally haven't even been at the studio, I think, for at least 60 days.
Oh man.
Like, I was realizing that the other day. I looked at my calendar as when, like you have your to-do list or whatever. I was flipping back, and then I was doing a little math, and I'm like, it's been 2 months since I've actually set foot inside the studio. My heart nearly broke in half.
Well, it misses you. It's a good place.
It is a good place. So when summer comes, the boys and I are going to come to a bunch of sleepovers and art making, and we're going to kick you out of there for a while, I think.
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah, it's going to be good. Well, I think that Dan would be, if he was here, he's here in spirit. He didn't die, ladies and gentlemen. No, he's just not here for the podcast. He would be tapping his watch and reminding us that your time is precious and that you have comic projects of your own to go and work on. So This is Gregory Kmichuk, encouraging you to join the fight and make comics.